We're live. It is Wednesday. This is the Rich Lieberman Bay Area Media Pulse. We talk about issues in the media, locally, nationally, sometimes internationally. You know, there's a lot of things going on at KRON, and it has, like most of the other TV news stations in the Bay Area, lots of problems. Here's a fundamental issue, and you don't really have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out, but I'm still going to tell you anyway. A couple of years ago, KRON had a veteran, Pam Moore, and she retired. Well, they kind of made her retire. She was ready to leave, but she might have stayed on a few more years. But they told her, look, we're going to give you a little bit of a golden parachute and then some. And they made it much more attractive for her to leave and retire. She could have stayed on. You know, these people, it is work. It is a job. But at the end of the day, you're sitting in front of a camera, and some work harder than others. But your job is to deliver the news, to anchor, to be that personality, to become that person who provides about 23 minutes per half hour of news content. She could have stayed on, Pam Moore, but she saw the handwriting on the wall. KRON was about to be sold to Nexstar, another one of these mega companies that doesn't like to spend money, that loves to heap and get and acquire profits and money and all this stuff, and doesn't want to spend a lot of money. Geez, what a surprise. In any event, KRON lost Pam Moore. And the truth of the matter is they haven't found anybody to replace her. Now, let me say a few things. Pam Moore had longevity. She had community support. She was very, very solid in the Bay Area. She probably had more, shall we say, cachet as regard to her actual position of delivering the news. And mind you, she was very good. I still think she was very solid. She had a name, she had recognition. As I just said, she had cachet, a definitive part of KRON. And boy, did they need it. They still need it because they haven't been able to replace Pam Moore. Let's go over some of these alleged candidates who they would think would become a face of the station kind of material, but have not. Okay, let's start with the obvious. Now, look, I love Vicky Liviaakis, but she simply and of course I'm going to get crucified by saying this, but the hell with it. Vicky Liviaakis is very attractive. She's very engaging. She has news chops, worked in the Bay Area for, hell, 40 years, 45 years, worked at KFRC, got a big to-do in radio before she made it in television. But guess what? Vicky Liviaakis doesn't have the it factor. She reads. She's not very passionate. And I say that not as a knock, it's a fact. She doesn't have the personal attributes to carry a newscast. That's just a fact. And I love her like everybody else. I think she's dynamite. But strong, passionate personality, okay. Vicky Liviaakis is not that person. Catherine Heenan. Kathy's been there a while, over 4 decades. She simply is yesterday. I hate to say it, but she too, like Vicky Liviaakis, doesn't have the personal wherewithal to carry a newscast. Some people have that. Years ago, remember Marsha Brandwood at Channel 2? Marsha Brandwood had everything, all of the above type of personality. She had, personality, cadence. She had style, delivery, substance. Hardly anybody today, maybe with the exception at Pix, a Juliet Goodrich, nobody has that kind of style today. okay? And at KRON, it's not the case either. Catherine Heenan was really, really good and still is, but she doesn't have that, as I've described before, that it factor, okay? Let's go beyond. Grant Lotus, nice guy, strictly vanilla. That is a knock. Now, I'm not talking about somebody sitting in the chair and bouncing up and down and screaming and yelling and doing stupid things. Hey, I'm Grant Lotus or I'm such and such. I don't mean it like that. I'm talking about having a command, having a presence, having present tense presence. And Grant Lotus is simply benign. He's vanilla. He doesn't have, and maybe you pair him with somebody else. The problem at KRON, they don't have anybody that has presence. Speaking of that, his wife, Justine Waldman, who I thought years ago would be a star, a superstar within the context of local news. Justine Waldman is very lightweight. She does not have a commanding presence. I'm sorry, Justine. Lightweight, lightweight. And an incident that happened a couple of years ago was not very welcome by KRON staff, some of whom high up at the time. She shows up in a miniskirt, a leather miniskirt. She's got all this, look at me, look at me, look at me. Well, they did look at you. And it wasn't very flattering. It lowered your IQ, made you look like something that clearly you were trying to be. It didn't help either your news chops. Please, please. Didn't work. It didn't work. It lowered your reputation. And you've stayed there because you've got a co-package, your husband and you guys, okay? Unfortunately, Justine Waldman with Boston credentials, very lightweight. They thought, many KRON execs at the time, that Waldman would be absolutely equal, if not even more capable than Pam Moore. That didn't work out. Still hasn't worked out. Why do you think she's doing 3 o'clock and not 6 o'clock? Okay. Other folks, they couldn't keep Ken Wayne. It was mostly salary, and they cut his salary in half. Maybe Ken Wayne, when he was paired with Pam Moore, that had potential. Unfortunately, it came at a time when Nexstar was coming about. They were cutting salaries, and it just didn't work out. They ended up telling Ken Wayne to get lost. Okay. KRON has not been able to replace Pam Moore. And as I just said, I think Pam was really, really good, but she wasn't great. And that's the problem. They don't have anybody there that commands the screen. Most of their people are just vanilla and average. There's a few people that are up and coming. The morning is a disaster. Midday, ugh. Evening, I've just given you several candidates as to why they all have limitations. Hell, we all have limitations, but there are people that work and there are people that don't work. And KRON has not been able to fulfill the dominant personality, the key person, the Batman to a Robin, if you will. They have not found anyone to replace Pam Moore, and that's not saying much. Which gives you, folks, the state of what is going on at KRON. It's not a pretty picture. They haven't found an anchor. They haven't found anchors. They have a problem with management. The new general manager hasn't taken and put his footprint into the building yet, metaphorically speaking, where there's a chain of command where people know who's the boss, who do we talk to. There is rampant disarray. You first and foremost, you have to have cohesion. You have to have direction. You have to have a missive. It's like anything else. And if you don't have all of the above, you can have a little bits and pieces. At KRON, they don't have that. There's a few good people. Well, there's always some good people, a few morsels that you can build around, but not at KRON. Until that happens, until they have a foundation, and until they're able to fix the growing problem of who's the boss, who is going to implement things, what is our direction, what is our missive, then they've got a long way to go. And one key thing, you have to have a lead cog. You have to have a lead person. You do, yes. It's a cliche, but it's true. You have to have a face of the station. And at KRON, they don't have that yet. Even in their wayward days when they lost NBC and they lost Young and became this lowly independent as they are today, granted with Nexstar, who's cheap, who doesn't want to spend a lot of money, who's cutting salaries left and right, you still have remnants of something you can build on. Not at KRON. What else has changed?